Well, good morning. I want to welcome you all to this month's power session. We've got a very interesting topic today, and I'm very excited to share it with you. We're looking today at the power of taking risk. And if you're like me or most people, when you hear the word risk, it doesn't give you a warm, fuzzy feeling. It makes you a little bit fearful and like you're going to lose something. And we're going to talk about why that's the case. But I want to give my thanks to the Portsmouth Chamber of Commerce, and we have Donna today helping admit people in and kind of direct traffic. And want to thank the Maysville, Kentucky, and the Grayson, Kentucky, and the Adams County, Ohio Chamber of Commerce's for promoting this event. And I'm also thankful to the Ashland Alliance. They've been sponsoring us for quite some time. So with that said, let me move to the introduction here. We've got our rules of the game. These are always foundational and important in what we're doing. You need to own this. You know, people have dreams and they have opportunities and they have things that they could have. And because they don't always step up to the ownership, they don't receive. And today we're going to take a challenge. We're going to put a challenge out there for you to get out of your comfort zone and start to think about what you really could have. It's just between you and me, sort of. This is just a place to think and to consider. I just want you to participate 100% and get rid of your I know, your past thinking about risk, your past thinking about taking chances. Just set all that aside. You can always pick it up at the end if you'd like to bring it back. But we're just going to have some fun exploring probably a new paradigm and a new way to look at risk in your life. And that is me. I've been doing this I've been married for 39 years, have 3 sons, granddaddy of all granddaddies. I've been doing this coaching for 20 years. I'm a biblical counselor. I help people with personal marriage issues and other problems. And I have a passion to help people. So that's why I'm here. And I hope you're here to learn how to take another fresh and new look at risk. So let's just begin here by asking a fundamental question. What is risk? And if you go to the dictionary and start with a traditional definition, the way most people view it, the common definition of risk is a chance of harm or loss or to put into danger. Well, gee, how many of you are ready to sign up for that? Let's put ourselves in danger. I guess if we're not Evel Knievel or somebody that likes to cross the Grand Canyon on a tightrope, or we're some extreme sports person, we're probably not real excited about putting ourselves in harm's way and trying to put ourselves under a possible danger. And that common definition, I think, that most of us just kind of have grown up with is what keeps us from even taking an honest, reasonable look at risk in our lives. Everything we do is risky. So I want to give you a better working definition, scouring YouTube and just thinking through the years about this issue, because I deal in coaching with this all the time in businesses and personal situations. What is a better working definition? So I'm going to give you a moment to give that some thought. And here it is. The factors of uncertainty in the pursuit of an outcome. In other words, I want a result. I want to have something. I want to go for something. And between me and having that, there are uncertainties that occur. And those uncertainties are what the risk is. Now, that's it, and no more nor less. If you'll just think about that definition, this is going to start to shift your mind. Here's the fact that you'll get if you go to this a little more sophisticated definition. The fact is there is no differentiation between positive and negative risk. Those are paradigms in people's heads. What's truly there are just things that are uncertain. And folks, this opens up possibility for you. This opens up a new way for you to think about some opportunities that you have or some things you may want to pursue. So again, I just don't want to rush through this because this could be the moment in this whole thing that really helps you out. There is no difference between positive and negative risk. Risk is not positive. Risk is not negative. Risk is just uncertainty. It's what we don't know for sure. So you've come to this to find out how to be more powerful by taking on risk. Why would that make me better, Dave? How could that help me? How could that help me achieve my goals and have a happier, more fulfilled life? Well, it requires, to get that power from risk, you have to approach it with a different thinking and a different set of skills. So it takes both to really benefit from it. A new way of thinking and a different way of dealing with it. So let's talk about what that is. Let's talk about the thinking first. How do you need to think to be empowered by risk? You have to think differently. If you really want to benefit from this, you have to think this way. When facing an opportunity, you have to understand that success dwells in the land of failure. You will learn more from your mistakes than from your successes. If you're not willing to embrace your mistakes and learn, you will not really get the power that comes with risk. One great key to understanding how to succeed is not just to embrace your own failures and your own challenges and your own downfalls, but to read about other people and to learn. If you're looking at a particular opportunity, do some research and due diligence and find about other people, how other people have succeeded with that and how people have failed with that. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is what we need. We don't need to be afraid to investigate. Secondly, as you're doing that due diligence and you're thinking about this opportunity and you're thinking about the risk, direct your focus toward the opportunity that comes with the risk, but absolutely don't ignore the threat. Understand that all growth and progress happens when we're not comfortable. Now, this is one that I have to deal with as a coach with people all the time. That if you're going to make progress, and certainly if you're going to lead other people, if we're going to lead people to grow and to excel and to get better, if we're going to grow and excel and get better, we're going to be uncomfortable. If you want to build a muscle, you have to put stress on it. If you want to build a person, they have to come under a pressure. That is the nature of growth. That's the nature of achievement. That's the nature of growing and being better. So you have to embrace this mindset if you want to get the power out of risk. You have to lean into it. You can't be afraid of it. You have to understand that as I focus on the opportunity, I'm also going to look the threats and I'm going to understand those and know that often people who succeed, the most successful people, have probably failed the most, and that failure is a part of the problem and it's part of the answer. I need to deal with fear. This is the number one thing that keeps people from taking even reasonable risk. They have not learned how to overcome and eliminate the fear in their life. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute on how to start to work on that. And I have fear. You have fear. We We all have it. It comes with the human condition, but you can learn how to deal with it. It's a different way to relate to it and to think about it. So it's not just about what's between our ears. That's where we have to start. But what are the things that we need to learn how to do if we want to be empowered by risk? Well, first, you need to slow down. So calm down. You got this opportunity, you're excited, and you're a little scared, and you're not sure, and you start to worry and fret. You need to set all that aside and you become very objective. Identify, prioritize, and determine the probable impact of uncertainty. I'm going into this thing, I'm considering doing this thing, I'm considering taking this chance. What are the uncertainties? I need to objectively identify them, and then I need to rank them. What's the biggest unknown? What are the other unknowns? And then what impact would they have? Now, most of you, if you're with me, are thinking negative impact, because going back to our definition, that's how you've been schooled to think of risk as negative. I want you to shift your thinking to that risk is just what is uncertain. And in those uncertainties, as you start to think about them and identify them and prioritize them, you can begin to create strategies to actually exploit the opportunity that comes with risk and minimize the threats that come with risks. So I want you to see that two-punch strategy, that we want to see the opportunities and not miss them. That when you embrace risk and take risks, it's going to create opportunities for you. And we want to take those opportunities and exploit them. But we don't want to ignore the threats. We want to minimize those threats and manage them. And I'm talking theoretically. I'm going to get practical here in a minute, but I want you to get the principles of what do I need to do? I need to exploit opportunities and minimize threats. I need a strategy or a plan to do that. I have to think about the uncertainties. Well, how do you do that? Yeah, Dave, help me get practical here. You're giving me a lot of words. I need some practicality. Okay. Well, you need to face these uncertainties. How do you do that? Well, I'm going to take this vacation out of the country. What are the potential hazards and pitfalls if I do that? What could go wrong? How could I get hurt? How could I lose something? You need to identify and recognize those things and talk about them. Oh, I'll just put that out of my mind. That's not a smart way to do this. The intelligent way and the reasonable way to do this is to think about it, to talk about it, to have a conversation with people about it, talk to people who've traveled there, do some research on people's experiences, get the facts. Some people have a lot of confidence. They just seem to be confident people. And unfortunately, sometimes that confidence can blind them. They think they know more than what they know and they can do more than what they can do. You need to make sure that your competence matches your confidence. Now, some people, and it seems like to me, most people, they're probably better than what they think they are. And they need to bring their confidence level up. But our confidence can be based in our competence. So we need to review these things. See, folks, the lizard brain, the emotional brain, when it gets running, it just shuts down creative thinking. It shuts down logical thinking. And as adults, we need to get our minds kind of get back into our head in a calm and a reasonable way and start to think through these things. Thinking is the answer to facing uncertainty, thinking about it. Then as you start to identify and recognize these hazards and pitfalls and opportunities, also you're going to have to realize that as you proceed with this, if you choose to do that, you need to manage emerging threat. by staying aware and navigating change. In other words, you don't just settle your plan one time and then just go for it. This is going to be a process. Maybe it's going to be a long-term process. You're going to begin at a point, but you're going to have to see things over the horizon. This is leadership stuff. I want to look out into the future and be aware, be awake and aware to what's happening so I can navigate. And finally, I think this is one of the strongest statements in the presentation this morning. How do I face uncertainty? I need to identify, evaluate, and plan for potential uncertainties so I can mitigate the threats and exploit the opportunities. I think that really sums up one of the main messages of this morning. If you want to get the power from taking risk, you need to get your head involved and you need to get your thinking involved and your creativity involved. You need to identify and evaluate and plan for the uncertainties. So to do that, you have to really think about them. Why? So you can mitigate those threats. You can be proactive and you can take and get the most out of the opportunities. Most people just think about the threat, and fear shuts down creativity. You need to think about the threat in light of the opportunity. You need to think of the two together. A SWOT analysis is a great tool to do that. There are many tools. If you Google this or you put this out there on the internet, you'll find a lot about risk management. It's an interesting field, and I don't know a whole lot about it, but the little bit that I've investigated it here recently, it's just very intriguing. But I do know how to do a SWOT analysis. I've done these for years, and I want to take you through this briefly. This is a tool you can use to do these evaluations. First of all, you want to look at relevant strengths. So, a thorough SWOT analysis is a great risk assessment and management tool. The goal of a SWOT analysis is to create a plan to maximize and leverage potential impacts, positive impacts called opportunities, and to mitigate, manage, and eliminate negative impacts called threats. So here's what you need to do. As you're looking at an opportunity, or you're looking at a risk that you might consider taking, something you want to go for, what are you going to do? First, you want to evaluate your relevant strengths. In other words, how am I equipped to handle this right now? What are my competencies? What's my current confidence level to take on this challenge? You can look at your skills. You can look at your education, your abilities, proven past successes you've had, related experiences, your knowledge, your accomplishments. This is a time to ask the question, do I have what it takes? We're talking reasonably. Get a coach, get a friend, get somebody to give you that objective analysis of where are you strong and ask you some of those questions. The second thing is on a SWOT analysis, the W stands for weakness. I need to survey where I'm weak. Now, this can be as an individual or this can be as an organization. If you're a leader in an organization or a leader of a team, this is a great practice to do with your team. So, where do we lack skill? Where do we lack the competence we need for this opportunity? What resources do we not have that we need to obtain that would help us meet this challenge? Now, folks, this is no time for ego and pride to get involved. This is a time to be realistic, and brutal honesty is your friend at this point. You might consider collaborating with others. You might need a partner. You might need to reach out to some others for help when you see your weaknesses. Great leaders, great people that achieve wonderful things never really do it alone. They always see that they have strengths, but they also have weaknesses, and they need to find ways to compensate for those. Thirdly, You want to look at the opportunities. Now, a point that I want to offer to you today on this one is most people rush through this and they don't slow down again to the speed of life, and they don't slow down to the speed of what's happening and really look not just at short-term return on investment, what am I going to get from this immediately, but how is this going to affect my life? How is this going to affect my business? How is this going to affect my team long-term? There are often hidden opportunities that you don't see because you're not looking for them that are long-term. How are people going to change as they pursue this? How are they going to grow stronger? What are they going to learn? Even in the failures, how are they going to be strengthened and develop perseverance and develop steadiness and develop a stability through some of the challenges and even the tough times? Tough times are not bad times. Tough times are times of growth if you approach them well. And finally, we absolutely do need to look at the threats and identify them. What are the potential threats that could cause this thing that I'm thinking about doing to fail? What circumstances and situations could shut this down? What are the apparent hazards and pitfalls? After careful thought, inquiry, and clarifying these threats, you need to manage them. So let's talk about how to do that. How do we manage threat? It's important, if we're going to get the power from risk taking, to understand what to do with threat. That's just unforeseen problems that occur, that come up, things that attack what we're trying to do, that get in our way. First of all, you can choose to avoid threat. Now, I really want to make this point this morning. This is important. Sometimes the right response to a threat is to withdraw completely from the situation and the opportunity and say no. Well, Dave, I thought you were a coach. I thought you were going to inspire us to go for it. No, absolutely not. Now, I'd love to see you go for it after you've thought it through, but no is not a nasty word, and saying no is not a bad thing necessarily. What are some examples? Somebody's asking you to do something that's amazing, but it's illegal. Well, I don't want to break the law. That's not my value. That's not my core value. That's not who I am. So that's a no. It's going to violate our core values and what we stand for. No is the answer. I'm not going to take that risk. I've got non-negotiables in my life. I've got boundaries in my life. I've got things that I have chosen out of priority, of value and principle that I'm going to do and I'm not going to do, and I'm not going to break my principles and my values to pursue some opportunity. And you need to get clear on what those are. If you haven't done that, if you're going to get the most out of risk, you need to decide where the lines are, what line you're unwilling to go over. Remember, whenever you say yes to an opportunity, you're saying no to other things. Once you commit to one path, you're saying no to other paths. So sometimes the way you manage a threat is you just say, that threat is a showstopper. I'm not going forward with it. Well, let's say, no, this isn't a showstopper. I want to continue to manage this threat. You need to mitigate it. We need to find ways to produce excellence in our product and service or whatever we're going to pursue. In other words, reduce the likelihood and the severity of failure by putting in the right protection systems, PPE, personal protective equipment, safety nets, contingency plans. In other words, look at the threat and figure out how to reduce the threat. Folks, this takes time. This takes effort. This takes focus. You can't just rush around like a squirrel on caffeine and get this done. You have to slow down and be logical and reasonable and methodical. Sometimes you can transfer a threat. Insurance that's what insurance is all about. I spend my money, I invest my money in bringing in a partner that's going to actually reduce or eliminate my threat. They're going to take it for me. Or at the end, after I've done all these things, I'm decided I'm not going to avoid it. I'm going to go for it. I am going to figure out a way to eliminate it or to mitigate it or to reduce it. I might transfer some of it. After I've done all those things, then I'm going to accept it. I'm going to accept that in any opportunity and any risk, there is threat. And after all the treatments are applied, I'm going to lean into and accept the remaining threat. And now I'm going to throw a curveball at you and use that threat creatively to my advantage. Did you know that there is such a state called anti-fragile, where difficulties and threats can actually help me? I can benefit from hardship and pain and challenge and difficulty and discomfort. Those things can actually help me if I get creative. Fear is what shuts that creative process down. We don't need to be afraid of threat. If we're going to get the power of taking risk, we need to manage it. I want to switch gears here now and talk about you and your situation and share my own story, a brief snippet of my own story. And here's the thing I want you to look for in this story. And I think everybody on this call should be able to relate to this at some level. When you step up to risk and when you decide to go for it, there is a transformational moment in the process. I call it the all-in moment. When you surrender to the opportunity and say, I'm going for it. It happens when you take a path that you might have never chosen, something you've hesitated to do or were afraid to do in the past, and you're saying now, no, I'm going to go for it. It is a terrifying experience, and it's also exhilarating. I can relate it to this. If you've ever been a person maybe jumping off the high dive into the pool as a kid, when you climb that ladder and you get up to that edge and you're right there on the edge and you finally take that jump, you're scared to death and excited out of your brain. I mean, it's just like never had an experience like that. It's when you say I do and you marry that person and you commit to that wedding and that marriage and that life change. It's when you decide to have children. It's scary and it's exciting all at once. You know the feeling. It's very human. It's the power of risk. When we embrace risk, we create all-in moments. I want to talk about this. When I answered the call to coaching 22 years ago, it was an all-in moment for me. There's a picture of the class that I graduated with. I went to training in Las Vegas, and even to get there, I went to 9 banks to get the money to buy the franchise, and they basically laughed at me and said it was a risk they weren't willing to share with me. My master licensee of the franchise, Action Coach, agreed to do that and actually lease a license to me. I had to max out my home equity. Was I being reasonable? Probably going through a little bit of a midlife crisis. But, you know, in my heart, I felt that God had called me to this coaching thing to help people. And that I had been equipped, and I looked at my strengths and I looked at my background, and I also looked at my weaknesses. And certainly I was considering the opportunity, not just the financial opportunity, but truly the opportunity to make a difference, especially in Southern Ohio and the tri-state. And I wanted to make a redemptive difference here and to have an opportunity to even lead people to a personal relationship with Christ in my business. And so all these things were swimming in my head and in my heart. And I saw the threat, the financial disaster. going into this huge debt, maximizing out my home equity and my credit. I didn't have credit card debt. I didn't go that way, but I basically put myself under a huge financial stress to go for this. And so I got out to training. And I remember there was an all-in moment when I signed the paper and went to training, but there was an all-in moment out there on the fourth day of training. And these are the folks I was with when I thought I had made the worst mistake of my life. I mean, I actually thought, oh crap, I've ruined my life now. I can't do this. This is over my head. I don't agree with this. This seems schmaltzy. How in the world can I do this in the southern Ohio, in the middle of Appalachia, where nobody has money? They're not going to pay these prices. All I'm learning how to do is sell and market. I don't know how to help business. I had all this swimming in my head, and I broke down, and I thought this is the worst decision I've ever made. But, I went back and the conversation I had with my wife, and I said, well, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for broke. Even if it doesn't work out, we'll just dig out of the hole and we'll figure it out. But it's worthwhile. It's a worthwhile pursuit. And I re-encouraged myself and went through the rest of the training and came home. And in that franchise, I was the fastest start they had ever had. I was the rookie coach of the year. I give that glory to God for his grace and kindness. It was his purpose. I think that's certainly what carried me through this time. But what I'm saying in all this is when you embrace risk, the power that comes to you is there's an all-in moment when it's just hard to explain. You do a quantum leap to the next level. You're not the same person you were. It's a reinvention. And it's all about life. It's about growth. It's about maturing. And 22 years later, I'm a top 10% paid coach in the world in Southern Ohio. And I'm so thankful for that because it's a testament to the blessing and the power of embracing risk. That's why I'm passionate about this topic. So that brings me to these 3 challenges for you. And I want you to really give this some consideration this morning. How can you lead others to embrace risk and pursue opportunity? I think I've got a lot of managers on this call, a lot of leaders, a lot of people that work with other people. Perhaps you work with young people. And it's really sad, folks, what we see in the world today, the lack of ambition, the fear that just pervades our culture, the unsurety and the confusion. This world needs leaders. This world needs people that are willing to stand up and take the risk, willing to go for it, and willing to lead organizations and other people that can do that. How can you be one of those people? That's what I want you to think about. I want to challenge you to that. Here is the model from my story and from what I've been saying so far. I want you to capture this model if you can for what I'm saying. You in your company, you and your team, you with your family, create and pursue those all-in moments as a group or an organization. It's a way to track and validate that you're on a significant, challenging journey with purpose. Human beings are most alive when they're committed to a why, to a mission, to a vision, to a purpose. Effective leaders inspire and they create these all-in moments, these milestones, these stepping stones into a created future. In other words, slow down, set aside some time to do some leadership work and clarify the vision of the group you're with. See the possibilities, see where you could go, and bring that back and create an opportunity for people to commit to an all-in, to go for it, that it's worthwhile. Folks, a leader will take people from one stepping stone to the next stepping stone. Every one of those is a defining all-in moment. I'm encouraging you. I'm asking you. I'm reaching out to you to say, How could you learn to lead others that way? People will embrace and pursue opportunities when they have someone to follow, when they have a support, when they have somebody to inspire them and somebody to help them see what they can't see. That's what leaders do. We help people see things they can't see on their own. So, how could you do that? Secondly, if you have some say so in your organization, certainly you have some say so in your life and in your church and in your family and in the community. How can we incentivize and encourage risk with the people that we have influence with? Just some thoughts here. Does your organization incentivize risk even when the results aren't immediately realized? It's not just about outcomes, it's about the process of learning in the challenge. Goal obsession can kill risk taking. Let me say that again. Goal obsession can kill risk taking. As a leader, do you reward risk taking even when the goal is not attained? In other words, do you commend people for going for it even when they fail and they make a mistake? That is the means forward. How do you, as a leader, reward and encourage those who take initiative? That's my question for this one. And how could you get better at that? Now, I want to put a disclaimer on the bottom of this whole presentation today. This is not about promoting foolish, thoughtless, stupid risk taking. I'm not talking about putting yourselves in extreme ways of harm. There are certain human beings that seem that's all they want to do and that's all they can do, and that's their business. That's not what I'm talking about today. I'm talking about a calculated, objective way to approach risk and go for some amazing things. It's about recognizing and encouraging the creation of new possibilities, then analyzing the potential risk and reward. And once you do the due diligence, if the only thing that's holding you back is fear, then for heaven's sakes, go for it. You'll certainly have those thoughts in that all-in moment of, what have I done? This is crazy, but this is great. That moment is the starting pistol to an amazing venture. But I'm not talking about being mindless and foolish and casting all care to the side. I'm talking about a calculated, strategic, challenging pursuit of amazing excellence and great things. Why do we settle for mediocrity? Why do we sit back and just exist? Why do we just go through the motions? I'm challenging you to step up and take that risk, but make it a calculated risk. Make it a risk you understand. See the risk as something positive. There are possibilities and opportunities in that risk as well as threats. You need to look at both and be aware of both. Being proud and foolish and just closing your eyes is not the answer. Just close your eyes and jump. Not recommended. You need to learn the power of negative thinking. There's a power in thinking negatively about what could go wrong so I can plan and work to mitigate that. My final challenge for you this morning. Here it is. This is it right here. This is that. I'm going to create an all-in moment for you if you choose to embrace it. What is one thing that you can do in your current situation that will change your life or your organization to be better? One thing you can own and do yourself. Something that's significant enough that when you say, I'm in and I'm going to go for it, it creates that all-in experience. I want you to really think about that, and something is going to come to the surface of your mind. If you'll calm down and let your creative mind go to work, you're going to come up with this one amazing thing you could do that would make a difference today. It might be committing to a conversation. You're going to go talk to that person. You've not done it. You're going to go ask them a question. You're going to go see what the possibility is. Maybe there's a new initiative that you want to pursue, something you want to learn, some experience that you would love to have, something you've always wanted to go for, something fresh, something new, something different, maybe even something with a little bit of an edge that people would look at you and be a little critical and say, I think that's a little crazy. Hey, life's too short not to be a little crazy. Let's have some fun and do some crazy good. You know, a lot of great things happen in craziness. I'm not talking about a craziness, a mindless, foolish, immature craziness. I'm talking about a very strategic, fun-filled way to live life and to lead others from one all-in moment to the next. It's a glorious way to go. And my personal challenge to you is to come up with one for yourself that you will commit to, and it's big enough that it's going to create that all-in experience. A little bit of fear, a little bit of excitement. It's really all the same emotion. That's my challenge for you this morning. So, 3 offers. I'll give you the slides. The offer 2, I'll give you the notes. It took me a couple days to put this all together. I'll be glad to send that to you. Love to share it. And number 3, what I'd really love to do is I'd like you to take a risk and have a conversation with me about your opportunities. I'm offering that all-in moment to you. That's why I live. That's my calling. That's my passion. That's what I do. That's who I am. And I want to offer you a conversation with me to explore opportunities that might be in your head, that might be swimming around. And you want an objective outside coach that would believe in you, but not to a point that they wouldn't be honest with you and help you do an honest assessment of the opportunity. I'd be glad to do that free. No cost. That's not the risk. The risk is that you're going to have to deal with it. If you call me up and you set that Zoom appointment and we have an hour together online, you're going to have to deal with it. Are you willing to do that? You'll have that all-in moment, that opportunity. And if you're ready, there's the email. Send me a message and I'll send you an invitation. Folks, short and sweet today. Be glad to send those things to you. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next power session. And thank you for your attention this morning. Goodbye.